The most dangerous moment in any war is not the battle itself. It is the moment the cannons stop firing. We spend years, lifetimes even, obsessing over the victory. We fantasize about the moment the enemy falls, the moment the trauma heals, the moment we finally ascend to that white light state of permanent bliss. We believe that once the war is won, we will finally be safe. But I promise you, that promise is a lie. The silence that follows a lifetime of survival mode is not peaceful. It is deafening. It is a biological crash that feels indistinguishable from death. You have spent decades building a fortress, refining your armor, and sharpening your sword. But what happens to a soldier who no longer has a war to fight? He panics. He invents a new enemy just to feel normal again. Today, in the finale of our Monte Cristo Archetype series, we are facing the final, most terrifying stage of awakening. Not the dark night of the soul, but the blinding, boring, empty light of the morning after. Welcome back to the House of Luminosity. If you have been walking this path with us through the last 7 episodes, you know we have deconstructed the entire journey of the Monte Cristo archetype. We started in the dungeon of victimhood. We moved through the death of the ego. We found the treasure of our integrated shadow, and we learned the precise art of setting boundaries. We have spent weeks learning how to fight, how to strategize, and how to reclaim our power from those who took it. But today, we arrive at the horizon, the moment Edmond Dantes sails away, the moment the revenge is complete, the justice is served, and the frantic energy of becoming dissolves into the terrifying stillness of just being. This is where most spiritual seekers collapse. They get addicted to the ascent and they cannot handle the plateau. Today, we are going to learn the art of radical invincibility in the face of the mundane. We are going to talk about why your nervous system hates peace and why the happiness you were promised is actually a trap that keeps you chasing the next high. Let's look at the mechanics of this. When you have lived your life in a state of high alert, whether from childhood trauma, a toxic relationship, or a demanding spiritual discipline, your body becomes a cortisol machine. You are biologically wired to scan for threats. You are a heat-seeking missile for danger. This hypervigilance becomes your baseline for alive. So what happens when you actually win? What happens when you leave the narcissist, or you heal the core wound, or you finally achieve that financial freedom you thought would save you? The external threat vanishes, but the internal machinery is still spinning at 10,000 revolutions per minute. This is the post-adrenaline crash. It is the withdrawal symptom of the warrior. You find yourself sitting in a quiet room, safe for the first time in 20 years, and you don't feel joy. You feel bored. You feel an itching beneath your skin. You feel a profound, hollow emptiness. And because your brain equates safety with adrenaline, it interprets this peace as a threat. It screams, "This is too quiet. Something is wrong. Where is the tiger?" This is the paradox. We say we want peace, but our bodies are addicted to chaos. Think about nature. A prey animal that survives the chase shakes it off. It trembles, releases the energy, and returns to grazing. But we hold the chase in our muscles. We build our identity around being the survivor, the warrior, the healer. If you take away the war, who are you? This is why so many of us, right at the moment of victory, self-sabotage. We pick a fight with a partner. We doom scroll until we find something to be outraged about. We subconsciously manifest a new crisis because chaos feels like home and peace feels like a foreign country where we don't speak the language. We are trying to shield ourselves from the emptiness of victory. But that emptiness is not a void to be filled. It is the space where the real work begins. This brings us to the second trap, the broken promise. Somewhere along the line, modern spirituality sold us a lie. It sold us the idea that awakening is a destination, a permanent address where the sun always shines, the vibrations are always high, and you never have to feel grief or anger or boredom ever again. We treat enlightenment like a retirement plan. We think, if I just meditate enough, if I just do enough shadow work, I will reach the finish line and I will be done. But here is the truth that no one puts on an Instagram caption. There is no finish line. The lie of permanent bliss is dangerous because it sets you up for failure every single Tuesday. You have a profound breakthrough. You feel the oneness of the universe. You feel the Monte Cristo power coursing through your veins. And then, 3 days later, you snap at your spouse because they didn't do the dishes. You feel a wave of depression. You feel unspiritual. And you think, I lost it. I failed. I need to go back to war to get it back. You didn't lose anything. You just came back down to earth. Think about the ocean. It is not always high tide. If the ocean stayed at high tide permanently, it would destroy the ecosystem. It must recede. It must pull back. The down cycle, the integration, the boredom, the washing of dishes, the paying of taxes is not a failure of your spirituality. It is the grounding wire that keeps you from burning out. There is a Zen proverb: before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The Monte Cristo archetype ends not with the Count ruling the world, but with him sailing away into the unknown. He leaves the gold. He leaves the vengeance. He returns to the human scale of existence. If you are waiting for a state of being where you are permanently invincible, permanently happy, and permanently high vibe, you are chasing a ghost. And that chase is just another form of armor. It's another way to avoid being human. So, if the war is over and the armor is heavy and the peace feels boring, what do? How do we survive the horizon? We move from the warrior to the ghost. We move from resistance to transmissibility. In the earlier stages of this series, we talked about boundaries as walls. We needed walls then. We were fragile. We needed to define where I ended and you began. But walls, by definition, separate you from the flow of life. Walls keep the bad out, but they also keep the oxygen out. They keep the love out. I want you to visualize your energy field. For years, you have visualized it as a shield, a bubble, a fortress. Now I want you to visualize it as a fog, as a mist. When you throw a rock at a fortress, it crashes. There is an impact, there is damage. The wall has to exert force to resist the rock. But what happens when you throw a rock at a fog? Nothing. The rock passes through. The fog does not resist. It does not fight. It simply allows the object to pass and then it reforms. It remains untouched. This is the ultimate state of power. It is not about being hard enough to withstand the hit. It is about being so vast, so porous that there is nothing to hit. This is somatic softening. It feels counterintuitive. It feels dangerous. Your instinct when the boredom hits or the ordinary stress arises is to tighten, to armor up. The practice of transmissibility is to notice that contraction, and instead of tightening, you open. You let the boredom pass through you like a weather system. You let the irritation of the dirty dishes pass through you. You don't hook into it. You don't make a story about it. You don't say, my vibration is lowering. You just say, this is a cloud passing through the sky. You are not the cloud, you are the sky. This is how you survive the peace. You stop trying to conquer it. You stop trying to make the peace exciting. You simply expand your capacity to sit in the room with yourself without needing a war to justify your existence. The Count of Monte Cristo spends years in the dark and years in the fire. He is a creature of extremes, but at the end of the story, he writes a letter, and the sum of all human wisdom, he says, is contained in these two words: wait and hope. This is not a passive waiting. It is the active, vibrating stillness of the horizon. It is the realization that you have survived the dungeon, you have survived the ocean, you have survived the war, and now you must survive the victory. this is the hardest thing you will ever do. It is much easier to be a general in a war than a human in a garden, but you didn't go through all of that suffering just to remain a soldier forever. You went through it so you could finally, truly be free. I've shared the architecture of this archetype with you because I spent 20 years trapped in the addiction to the battle. I thought peace was a weakness, I thought silence was a trap, but the storm is only dangerous to the things that resist it. I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you reached a point in your journey where the chaos stopped and you felt that wave of panic? Have you felt the crash of the ordinary after the high of the breakthrough? Share your story below. Your story might just be the key that helps someone else find the courage to put down their armor. You are definitely not alone.